Are you bored?
Yeah?
Do you want to do something outside?
Yeah?
Well, it's time for Super Garden Adventure.
Super Garden Mega Adventure!
All good adventurers need to know their equipment list. It's very important. Now, for this adventure, if you couldn't find these things, it's okay. But it would be best if you had at least a paper and some pencils. That's to record what we're going to see on our Super Garden Adventure. You might want a torch. Probably not, but you might. If you had one, it would be good to have a camera, maybe on a mobile phone, maybe on an iPod or an old phone or just an old digital camera. But again, not essential. And you might also want an adventure hat, just because adventure hat. Okay, now I'm all kitted up for my adventure. I'm nearly ready to go. But there is something very important with this one. You have to check with an adult to make sure it's okay. Mum, can I go out in the garden on a super mega adventure safari?
Yes, but don't touch anything that might hurt you. Don't hurt the plants or the animals.
I think I can go. Let's do it.
If your garden has lots of pots, they're a great place to start. You can easily move them and look underneath the leaves and plants. Do be careful though, someone's cared an awful lot about these. Next up in this bed we found a pair of snails. Now, I didn't really want to touch any of the animals we found today, but after I turned these shells over very carefully, I found out they were empty. The next one was empty as well. You can't see it very well here, but there's also a baby snail shell. Remember where you see things and make sure you always write them down. This is going to become very important later on. So I've written where they are and what I saw. If you had a camera, you could have taken a picture, but the notes are important too. This is what makes it a safari. Next up, we saw some plants. They were really pretty, and they'd attracted a small hoverfly. You can see it against the dark red petal there. It's very, very small, and it's something I might want to try and identify later. Underneath these plants, I couldn't find anything, although underneath the pot there was a woodlouse. Next up I moved a brick. Now under bricks is a great place. Weirdly there was nothing under this one, and I had to be careful because I didn't want to destroy any of the parts of my garden that are built with bricks. This part of the garden didn't have any specific insects apart from a little tiny bee that was buzzing around there. I didn't disturb him and he didn't disturb me. That's always important with insects. Some of them can sting and maybe even bite, but as long as you leave them alone, usually they'll leave you. Clues are another important part of a safari. Although I haven't found an animal here, I found snail trails, and that's something that will need to go in my notes. Same with these cobwebs. These are a great sign that there's insect life here, and although I didn't see anything today, I might in the future. I gave these leaves a little shake to see if I could trigger spiders coming out to their webs, but no luck. Big warning now, garages are dangerous. Leave this stuff alone. Tools and chemicals are not for you. Find of the day so far. This spider was in my garage. He had loads of cobwebs around the windows to catch flies. I gave him a little tap eventually and he ran off inside. He was quite big and one of the best finds of the day. Nice safari work. Whoa. After moving this pot, I found a really big snail. Unlike the other snail shells, this guy was inside. Now, I wouldn't normally pick up and move insects, but these snails, they're quite hardy and quite tough. If I pick him up and bring him to the camera, right back in the corner of the shell you can see his slimy body tucked away. He was probably a bit scared from the noises and the sounds, and so he was tucking himself away. Under this pot, I found an earwig. This guy was creepy crawly, and his tentacles were feeling around and moving. I soon put him back because I think he preferred the dark and the shade. Once the safari was over, I came home and I drew a diagram of my garden. It doesn't have to be accurate, but think it through and make sure it reflects the shape and size of your garden. I'm drawing the garage now because that was somewhere I found things. I'm separating off the patio areas and labelling on steps and bushes, little things that might be able to help me identify the locations around the garden. I got bored of using the ruler and draw the house by hand. However, now it's all labelled up, I'm starting to put some colour on it. I don't have a lot of time, but if you have loads, colour it in properly. This chart was something I found online. It's a really good chart and helps you identify simply what insects are. Now I know what the insects are, I'm going to start labelling them on my chart where I find them. Draw lines showing you where they were found. Make notes. If you know their specific names, write it down. Also write down things like the clues, where we found the cobwebs.
So, if you pop that up on the wall, then at some point you can come back to it and fill it in. Maybe things you could find inside your house. Maybe you could do the second floor of your house here. Maybe you could look for insects where you haven't found them already. Fill in the gaps. Maybe you could add their particular names. Once you've used the chart and you found out that an insect has a special name, you could look it up and build this up, not just during the summer but during the winter as well. Insects come inside the house, and you could write dates next to when there are different places around your house. Whatever you do, build up your insect map, your safari guide, and you could even draw in where cats run through your garden. We have a lot of cats that come down the side here and run through our garden because they're very naughty. Maybe you could do the same. Maybe you want to make this bigger because you're going to fill it with so many insects. There are a lot. We only found a few today, but there are a lot of insects inside and outside the house.